Starting to record right now, and we shall see. Hi everybody, my name is Lisa A. Romano, and I'm going to just click out of a couple of devices because it gets a little confusing. Thank you very much for stopping by. There are 32 of you on the line right now. I believe I've enabled the chat feature, so you should be able to ask me questions. So I have a few questions that I want to address. As you know, I get a lot of emails, and I do my best to answer those questions. And I think it's really important that we begin talking about and understanding codependency in our everyday lives. And I think it's really important that we learn to get comfortable with talking about codependency, because there's a possibility, and again, these are just my humble opinions, but I am of the belief that codependency is epidemic. I am of the belief that we are absolutely raised to fear what other people think about us. And that does such a number on our brains. And my 12-week breakthrough coaching program, for any of you that are interested and still in the opportunity to get in on that, I still have time for you. You still have time to get in on that. I close registration on September 15th. And I mention that because my whole program is about teaching you about codependency, how it gets programmed into us, and then how our brain interfaces with these ideas from our environment. And so we're children and we're born, and we are subject to the experiences that we have outside of self. And we're like these blank slates. But we're also like part robot in that we have these genes that are operating, the color. That genes will tell us what color our eyes will be, how long our fingernails will be, also our ideal body weight, the color of our hair. I mean, these are like little, think about it. It's like a computer being programmed, right? So what you look like is really, for the most part, in terms of your genes and chromosomes, that was outside of your ability to control that. And then you have this mind. Now, the mind, although is not the brain. And the mind is going to be affected by the environment. And how you feel about yourself is going to be affected by what you experience in your environment. Now, we have, in order to heal, and I talk about this a lot in my program is it's psychological, it is scientific, it is, if you want to say emotional or spiritual, whatever, but it blends all these different ideas so that you can really understand who you are. Now, I believe so many things are happening when you're suffering from codependency. I'm going to show my age here, but for those of you who are very young, namaste, but those of you who are probably older than 45, you know what the hell a record is, right? So a record gets stuck. It can get stuck on a needle, and it'll skip, and it'll skip, and it'll skip. When you're suffering from codependency, it's like your mind is just stuck, and it just keeps skipping, and it just keeps skipping. And in my humble opinion, I think this happens because we are seeking outside validation. Now, when you're a child, it is normal and appropriate to seek validation outside of yourself, and absolutely essential. We have mirror neurons, and we are supposed to experience. Now, what happens is, in order for me to experience this perception of self, then I feel that someone outside of me has got to make me feel seen, so that my mirror neurons can turn on, and I can have this awakening to me, this inner being, this person inside of this body. And when that doesn't happen, I think what happens is we spend our lives skipping, seeking that validation, waiting for someone to approve of us. We stay in these really, really difficult relationships, and we think, one day it'll get better. One day it'll get better. It's like Groundhog's Day every day. It's not getting better. 20 years later, we're still waiting for it to get better. And this is the way a codependent thinks. So I think that we really have to understand what codependency is. And what codependency is codependency makes us feel like we're not good enough. And it makes us feel unconsciously, we have this unconscious need to feel seen and validated by other people. And it doesn't always manifest the same way. There are codependents who I feel are very empathic, and they can feel other people's feelings. And I'm going to read you a letter from a YouTuber who reminded me a lot of a lot of my clients as well as myself, where even though like my mom was abusing me as a kid, I knew why she was abusing me. I knew that she was very sad. I knew that she had some issues. I knew that, she hadn't worked things out. And that interfered with my ability to claim myself as a woman and be able to step outside of the child's role. This empathy that I had for her, almost like the Stockholm syndrome, where I was feeling sorry for the person that was really abusing me in lots of ways. I mean, she was great in some ways, but she abused me in a lot of ways. That really hurt me on a heart level and made me a codependent, and had all these types of eating disorders, you name it. You guys know the deal. And so I had this empathy for my mother that really followed me throughout my life. So even as an adult, when she was being sarcastic or putting me down in front of people, I still felt bad for her. And so I want to read, I have some video comments coming in, which is kind of cool. And I'm going to do my best. Hello. Hi, Elena. Hi, Richie. Hi, Renee. Dr. Salka. Alicia. Jenny. Tracy. Thank you so much for showing up. What I'm going to do what I can to get to these questions and comments. I just want to say hello from Canada. Tracy wrote, how long have you all listened to Lisa? I have been almost every day for a year and a half. Thank you, Tracy, so much. Hi, Jenny. I'm glad you just discovered me recently. Hi, Denise. Hi, Betsy. Hi. I'm so glad you're here. Betsy's like freaking awesome. Love her. She's part of my first coaching program, and so is Yelena. So let's get to this question, shall we? So I just want to make sure you guys can all hear me. So if you could just give me a shout out and let me know that you can hear me, that would be great. Just want to make sure. Just let me know. Somebody? Okay, great. Thank you, Renee. Awesome. Okay, so this comment comes from a YouTube viewer, and she says to me, this spoke to my soul. It's actually the video. This is the thumbnail. I don't know if you guys can see it. But the thumbnail is Narcissistic Mothers, How They Control Their Young. Thank you so much, Anna. Esra TV. Thank you, Richie. Thank you. Okay, so she wrote, this spoke to my soul. My mother is a narcissist, and she guilt trips me all the time. She suffered as a child from sexual abuse, and she has irrational fears about my sisters and I. She wants to control us, and since I won't take it, she is relentless to cause me emotional pain. I've never said anything cruel to her, but if I have an opposing opinion, I won't hear the last of it. That's very, very common. I tried to tell her she needs a therapist, but she lectured me for weeks and tried to make me feel guilty every day. She'll bring up something irrelevant to go out of her way to cause me pain, because I don't want to be controlled. I can leave, and I am in the process of moving out to heal, but my little sisters are not. I don't want them to suffer, as we are her targets to lash out at when she's upset over literally nothing. How can I get her to help? She is in a lot of pain, and it hurts me to see her suffer, but I know it's right, and I can't justify her being an emotional bully. So what I want to point out, hey, Michael Kundari, hello, Michael. Hello, namaste. What I want to point out in this letter, which is very, very common for codependents, is her main question. And her question is, how can I get her to get help? So this YouTube viewer is a victim of a narcissistic mother, and her question is, how can I get my mother help? So it's really, really important that everybody listening observe that and absorb that, and that when you're codependent, it's very common to feel sorry for the abuser. So, in my marriage, what I did was, I understood that my ex-husband came from a family that was dysfunctional emotionally, and I could see that, and I could feel that, and I knew that he was the youngest of 3 sons, and they had picked on him, and they had called him names, his whole life, and because he was the youngest brother. And the mom and the dad really never set any boundaries in the house. And I knew my ex-husband was seeking their approval. And I saw that. And so when he was rude to me or fresh or obnoxious or even abusive, my heart as a codependent, and I believe an empath, it was like I was justifying and saying it, well, that's because he has this going on, and that's because he's insecure, and so it was almost, I was canceling out my experience of the experience. So it's really easy to miss what happens when you're a codependent. It's really easy to miss and not understand that when you're a codependent and you've been taught that your feelings don't matter, how you could be 50 years old and have an abusive conversation with your 80-year-old mother, and how in the back of your head you're thinking, yeah, she's old, yeah, she was sexually abused as a kid, well, yeah, my dad wasn't very nice to her. And all that data, all that codependent programming, what that is actually doing is minimizing your now experience. So the way we heal is to learn how to be in the now. Because when you learn how to be in the now, what ends up happening is you learn to be able to process in real time what you're actually feeling. So the only way to heal and move forward is to know what you're feeling and to learn how to integrate it, right? And so we talk a lot about cognitive dissonance in my 12-week program, and how one side of the mind has a belief. And if you have this belief that you need other people's approval, or that you need to feel sorry for your abuser, then that's your belief. So when the right side of your mind, let's say, confronts that and says, hey, what about me? If the belief is really strong that you need to protect the abuser, it'll cancel it out. Like, you won't even be able to have your experience. So it's really, really, really important that as you heal, you understand how important it is to understand what's happening on the level of your mind, and also how your organic brain works. So if you have pain associated with confronting your mother, or you have pain associated with putting a no contact rule in place so that you can actually live, happily, then one part of your brain is going to cancel out any need or impulse you have to confront the abuser. Now, there's nothing wrong with you. That's just the way the brain works. So I can only tell you that's what's happened in my life and in the lives of the clients that have taken the 12-week breakthrough coaching program, and it's evident. You can see their testimonials on YouTube. Some of them are actually on the live stream right now. We have Kate, we have Alejandra, we have Michael, we have Yelena. All have been through the program, and Michael, I know, can attest to how becoming aware of what happened from a higher place, from the ability to have, to be more aware, from a higher self, right? From the ability to be the observer of the experience, what that does on the recovery journey, that absolutely propels you. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to read her, hi Mary Kay, I'm going to go back and read her email again, and I want to see if you guys actually are hearing what she's saying. And Betsy's saying, learning how to have my own experience. Yes, I did not know I needed to learn to do this. When you know better, you do better. Yes, Maya Angelou. So, and Dr. Salka is saying, I have the same issue with my mother, guilt tripping. Whenever I want to set a boundary, she rarely ever respects it or accepts it without asking for an explanation when I express a boundary verbally. Okay, before I even read this, dear one of the things that I would like you to try to do is when someone asks you a question, now do this consciously, right? I want you to do this consciously. When somebody asks you a question, I want you to experiment with just answering the question in black and white. So my 19-year-old daughter, she's just amazing. I raised her, but I was a very aware mom, right? I was really, really super, super conscious, and she had the benefit of having a mom whose mind was accelerating in growth and becoming very, very aware. So, you know, my little one definitely benefited. So she's different than my other two kids. She's different than a lot of people I know, which is awesome. I just love hanging out with her. So today, for instance, her boss emailed, actually texted her and said, "Hey, I know it's last minute, but can you come into work today?" And my daughter just responded, "No, sorry, can't do." Well, when she told me about the text message, I was like, "Well, maybe you should tell her it's your dad's birthday." And my daughter looked at me straight in the face and she goes, "No, I don't have to do that. That's not necessary." She asked me a question and I answered it. And I was like, I did that. I raised this kid to have that type of self-esteem. And she is not codependent. And she was like, asked a question and she just answered the question. And I thought that was freaking fabulous. Like, wow. So what I want you guys to do, and I'm getting a lot of great questions, which is awesome. So what I want you guys to do is from today, tomorrow, just keep it really, really, be really, really conscious and cognitive of it. And I want you to experiment with just answering the questions that people ask you without explaining the answer. That is an amazing life skill. Now, the issue we have as abused adult children is we never felt heard. We never felt like our feelings were legitimate. We felt scrutinized. We were oftentimes accused of things that we were not guilty of. Our parents were oftentimes paranoid. And one of the ways that they kept us in check was by accusing us of things that we were not guilty of. What ends up happening is we end up feeling guilty and we end up feeling ashamed. And that becomes a program. That also becomes what I talk about in Quantum Tools to help you heal your life now. It becomes an emotional set point. So we literally walk around feeling like we have to justify what we think and we have to justify what we feel. We're so worried that people aren't going to see us as authentic. We're so worried that people aren't going to be able to validate us. And this is the thing. It's so complex, dear ones. Healing from codependency is not easy. It is possible, but it does take time because there are so many layers to it. So many layers. When you haven't felt validated from outside of the self, you don't feel seen. You don't feel valid. And so below the veil of consciousness, there's this sense running, right, that we have to feel validated, that people have to see us. And, you know, when my husband asks me a question, you know, did you pick up my dry cleaning? And we just say no. We know it's because we were just busy we have 6 kids, or we had to work all day and, you know, we'll go tomorrow because it was raining today. You know, we don't feel comfortable saying, no, babe, I'm sorry, I wasn't able to get to it today. We go into a whole song and dance. We take out the tap dancing shoes. We take out the banjo or the drum, and we start justifying why we weren't able to do this one thing. Now, another layer of this crap is we feel super responsible for everybody else. So if we don't do something that was asked, we feel like it's the end of the world. We feel like we have failed miserably. So I don't want to overwhelm you guys. So Dennis asks, so we feel the need to explain because we are guilty because we were programmed that way. Yes, we feel the need to explain because A, we've never been validated, right? So my daughter's been validated her whole life. You know, so if she felt something, I validated. If she was angry, I gave her the space to be angry. If she was angry at me, I said, okay, you have a right to be angry. You know, I'd be angry too if I were you. So my daughter has had the constant experience of having her experiences, her emotional experiences, validated. So her brain has been turned on to, I matter, these feelings matter. So my daughter doesn't have that neurotic need to get other people to fully understand her. I still, they say we teach what we most have to learn. I still catch myself in writing an email to somebody, where I'll feel myself over explaining where it's really, really, really not necessary. And that's all my old codependent stuff coming in. So we over explain, and we justify because we don't feel good enough, we don't feel believed, and we're trying really, really, really to appease the other person. We're trying not to make the other person angry at us. We're always constantly trying to make it okay between us and the other person. So no matter who it is, it could be the mailman that we see once a week. It could be the deli guy we could walk into a deli in a different town, a different country. We want the deli guy to like us because we don't feel like we're good enough. So we're constantly seeking outside of ourselves. It is literally like the record that is stuck. The record's stuck. So no matter where we go, we're seeking validation. So I hope that makes sense. Jeanette said, love this. Dear one, melts my heart. How do you validate kids' feelings without trying to fix their problem? Okay, I'm going to answer that question, and then I want to go back to this significant email because it's a great question. So Jeanette, I talk about it in the program, one of my videos in the program, and I also talk about it on one of my YouTube videos. Don't remember which one. But it's really, really important that we as parents understand that it is our obligation, and it is our responsibility to take these little people that we have brought into this world, whether we've had them biologically or we've adopted them or we're forced to foster parents. It is our responsibility. It is our job, and if we don't do it, we're failing. And not the end of the world. We can always learn how to do better. But I don't care if you're a biological mom, if you're a foster mom, or if you're an adoptive mom or dad, whatever. It is our responsibility, your responsibility, to make your children feel seen. So let me just explain this to you. So I'll tell you a little story. My daughter was about 4 years old, and my clients who are on the line have actually heard the story 1,000 times probably. But I just think it personifies what I'm trying to drive home so beautifully. So let's say, this did happen. So I'm putting her to bed one day, and she says to me, Mommy, I'm so angry at you. And she was really pissed off, right? This little tiny kid is so pissed off at me, right? And I love her, and I'm struggling, recovering codependent. And I don't want my kid being mad at me, but I was putting myself into massive recovery. Like I was on fire with recovery. And there was no life coach that I was following either. It was just absorbing information, reading about child psychology, and putting it all together in my own head. And so, but I knew that I had to be present for this little kid. I knew, Lisa, it ain't about you, okay? It ain't about you trying to make this kid happy so that she can see you and that you can feel good about solving her problem. Because that is unconscious egoism. And sad to say, that is the way I raised my son, especially, where if I can make him happy, I felt good. And I was unconscious that my son was really feeling my need to feel seen, which is just fucking functional, okay? And he's 27 years old, and I can still see the effects of that. And I live with that every day, and I do what I can to be present for him now. But there is certainly damage that has been done. Okay. Go back to my little one. So now I'm awake. So now she's 4 years old. And, Mommy, I'm so angry at you. So Mommy said, not about you, Mommy. It's about the baby. It's about her. Be here for her. So I said to her, why are you angry? And she said, because you said I was going to have ice cream. And you didn't give me ice cream after dinner. And I know you're not going to give me ice cream now because it's time for me to go to bed. So in my head, I'm filtering all this information. And I say to myself, validate her. And I said, you know what? I would be angry too. If my mommy promised me ice cream and then it was time to go to bed, I would be upset too. I showed up for her. I had empathy for her. I saw her from a higher state of consciousness. I tapped into higher awareness, right? I became the observer of the experience. I didn't react, right? As codependents, we're constantly fucking reacting. I didn't react. I stayed present, and I observed what was happening inside of me, and I heard myself say, it's not about you, it's about her. And what ended up happening was I understood that if I can see her, her mirror neurons will turn on and she'll see herself. And if I can have that, if I could flow her validity, if I can say, I see you, I hear you, I'm showing up for you, and she can feel seen, then what will happen in her brain is her brain cells, her mirror neurons turn on, and then she, in her little head, her little girl head, can see her own feelings. That is no, it's not too late if your son is 5 at all. You have, honestly, before the age of 12, Yelena, we have a really good chance of fixing this. After the age of 12, when they're not in that theta brainwave state anymore, it's a little bit more difficult, but still not impossible. At 12 years old is when we have to start saying, I'm sorry. Mommy didn't know better. I should have done this, and I did this instead. And I'm asking your forgiveness, and Mommy's going to do better. After that, after 12, that's how we have to talk to our children. And up until about the age of 18, let me turn my phone off. But up until about the age of 18, in my opinion, we have to be there for these children. We start to think when they become snotty little 12-year-olds, like we get sick of them. Well, that's what 12-year-olds do. 12-year-olds are pain in the asses, and they have this natural rebellion. And the more you understand the Erickson stages of emotional development, which is Module 1, Week 1 in my program, and I'm sharing this with my YouTube audience, you have to study Erickson stages of development. You have to understand, it's your job as a parent, it's my job as a parent, to understand what my kid's going through. It's not my kid's job to understand me. Now, let's get back to this email. This spoke to my soul. She's talking about the video. My mother is a narcissist and she guilt trips me all the time. She suffered as a child from sexual abuse. That's the daughter understanding the mom. And she has irrational fears about my sister and I. She wants to control us, and since I won't take it, she is relentless to cause me emotional pain. I've never said anything cruel to her. So here's a daughter who has every right to tell her mom to back up, but she's not setting a boundary because she feels sorry for her abuser. But if I have an opposing opinion, I won't hear the last of it. Very common for narcissistic people, not just moms, that the minute you offer an opposing view, they harass the shit out of you until you're crying uncle, until you're saying, okay, Mom, I'm sorry. I remember when I was a little girl, my mother would not leave me alone until she broke me, until I was crying and practically in the fetal position. That's when she left me alone. So I understand this type of manipulation. So I tried to tell my mom she needs a therapist, but she lectured me for weeks and tried to make me feel guilty every day. Because her agenda is to manipulate you so that she has power over you and control over you. That's where she's getting her narcissistic supply. So when you say to her lovingly, Mom, you need a therapist, she's not hearing you. She's going to try to convince you that you're crazy for thinking she needs a therapist so that you can shut up and she can continue to abuse you. I love you guys are asking such great questions, and I love this, that you're supporting one another. Mwah, that's so wonderful. Love you guys. So my mom will bring up something irrelevant to go out of her way to cause me pain because I don't want to be controlled. No, dear one. Your mother is going out of her way to cause you pain so that she can scramble your brains like eggs. So she's trying to cause you pain. So let me talk about the pain versus pleasure reflex in the brain. When your mom is yelling and screaming at you and manipulating you, she may not be aware of it, but she is hacking your pain versus pleasure reflex. So what she's doing is, unconsciously, she is causing you so much pain associated with telling her she needs a therapist that your brain now associates pain with telling her she needs a therapist. So now your brain will associate pleasure with not telling her she needs a therapist. Did you freaking hear that, dear ones? Did you hear that? That is serious. You may have to listen to this video over and over and over to get that. But This is the way narcissists control us. So this woman, this mom, is causing this kid, this child, and her name is Meg. She's a YouTube viewer. She's causing this poor kid so much pain that in Meg's brain, on an organic level, Meg's brain is associating tremendous fear with confronting the narcissist. So now what happens is her brain, Meg's brain, will associate pleasure with not confronting her. How does that look in the environment? How it shows up in the environment and the dynamic is mom isn't getting, I sounded so New Yorker there, getting. But mom isn't getting any flack from Meg because Meg is too afraid to say, you need a therapist. So mom wins. Mom wins. Her manipulation wins, and Meg is stuck. Okay? So when you have a narcissistic mother, you have an attachment trauma. And so Meg, it's really, really important that you really understand attachment trauma. So Misty said, adopted at birth, I feel I have always needed validation and always looking for someone to love me. So Misty, there is someone else on the line who has the same experience. And I just want you to know, dear ones, I am creating a program for adoptees and foster children. Children who have suffered a specific type of an emotional attachment trauma that relates to being given up for whatever reason by the adoptive mom. Because you have suffered an attachment trauma, but there's also this undercurrent of why did she give me up, which is painful, which hurts a child at a core level, and also this is the undercurrent of why, and it's an undercurrent, I'm certainly not good enough. There's the undercurrent of other kids know their moms. There is this grieving that happens with children who have been adopted, and there go my dogs. Children who are adopted and who are in foster care. If you're very lucky, I do know I had a client, I coached a couple that were older, and their son adopted a little girl at birth, and the mom was in her 40s, and the little girl is so happy, and the way they handled it was beautifully. They told her about 8 years old that she had a mommy that she was created inside a mommy's belly, but that mommy couldn't take care of her. So the new mommy took care of her, and this is her new family. And the kid is very well adjusted, and they're handling the adoption awesome. So, but it's really, really important that we understand that attachment trauma is at the root of this daughter's issue. She has got a narcissistic parent, and she is suffering, but she's focusing on getting the mom help. So this child, and I really hope you're watching, I don't think you are, but I hope you get this, get this, Meg. I hope you watch this video, Meg, because it's all about you, girl. So it's really, really important that anybody watching, if you're codependent, you're suffering, and you had a narcissistic parent, or you have a narcissistic spouse, give me a shout out in the chats if you find yourself making excuses for poor behavior. Okay, that's one thing I want you to do. So as you move forward, it's about not making any more excuses for poor behavior. So what you guys are going to do moving forward as just a social experiment is, today's the day you're going to stop justifying your answers. So, Betsy, you want to go to the movies? No, thank you. Imagine that. How cool is that? Yelena, you want to take your kids to meet me at the park later? No, thank you. Because what happens is we are socially conditioned to think we owe people an explanation, but we don't. We absolutely don't. And that was huge for me too. That helped me so much because I didn't realize that I expected people to give me an explanation too. So if I asked my sister, do you want to come over this afternoon? And she said no, I was like, yeah, and why not? And so when I started taking accountability, and accountability is a big part of my coaching program, you have to learn how to be accountable. When I started to no longer answer other people's questions as to why I couldn't do something, then I also held myself accountable and became very, very self-observant and self-aware, and I stopped expecting other people to justify why they said no to me. So it was literally like all these negative psychic cords were getting cut, and I was like, I was no longer a marionette, right? Because my unconscious need to think you owe me an explanation is a program. It's a program. I was attaching to an expectation. That's a program. So when I stayed in a higher state of awareness, right, and I became the observer of what was happening, and I was able to, of free will. See, if you hold on to any, in my opinion, if you hold on to unconscious beliefs, you're not operating in the mode of free will. Impossible. You're like a Sims character. You know the Sims character, the little video game? You know, little people walk around and you're controlling them? You have to be free. You know, in order to really, really be free as a human being and to really understand the most amazing spiritual experience you can have, you have to understand what it's like to let go of expectations. When you don't have expectations of other people, when you can show up and be present. And so if it rains and you're supposed to, you know, the day I married my husband, it poured. And I was happy as a clam. I don't know why they say clams are happy. I don't really know. That's a silly expression. But I really was there. I was ecstatic. It didn't bother me that it was raining. And I mean, it was pouring. You know, when you have observed yourself enough, and you hold yourself accountable enough, and you free yourself of all these dysfunctional programs that your mother, your father, your sister, your brother, your grandmother, your religions, society, other people's opinion about your God or the God that you believe in. You know, the way we're manipulated in advertising about what the ideal woman looks like. I mean, most women today should be throwing themselves off a cliff or you know, sacrificing themselves inside a volcano. Because most of us are not the supposed ideal the media, the freaking crappy media, is projecting towards us, right? So we gotta get really real. It's a bunch of bullshit. It's all an illusion. You're trying to be controlled. They're trying to control your ass so you buy their products, okay? So we have to confront it. So codependency is pervasive. It's everywhere. And anything and anyone that, or any idea that has you thinking that you need validation from outside of yourself is an illusion. It's an absolute lie. And I mean, Eckhart Tolle's book, The Power of Now and A New Earth, I mean, it was so hard to get through because it was kind of difficult to understand. But at the end of the day, I think what he's saying is the ego is an illusion and the material world is an illusion. I say it's bullshit. It's all bullshit. The idea that you're not enough is bullshit. The idea that you have to be a certain weight is bullshit. The idea that you need someone else's approval is bullshit. The idea that you don't have a right to tell your mother that you don't want to talk to her is of course you have that right to tell somebody, even if it's your mother, I don't want to talk to you. Of course you do. So getting back to this girl, so Anna said, I definitely don't want to repeat the same patterns of my family. If you're aware, you won't repeat the same patterns. If you commit yourself to being self-aware, you will not commit the same patterns. If you do not commit to being self-aware and self-observant, you will be reacting to your subconscious programming, and you will repeat those patterns. So, Betsy, you're so funny. The idea that you are not enough is bullshit. You believe, right, Betsy? It's true. It's true. It's absolutely bullshit. Okay, so, I just want to make sure that you guys understand what the real issue is that I found in this email, which is the girl who wrote me, the YouTube viewer that wrote me, is more concerned about getting mom help than she is about her experience, which tells me that this poor kid is not experiencing her feelings. So, and I get it, what she wants to do is she says that she can get out. See, my suggestion is, thanks Betsy, my suggestion is that she does get out. Now, she's got a couple of sisters in the house that are stuck, right, because of their age, but they won't be stuck for long. And the way I'm looking at it is if Meg gets out and she gets her own little apartment, guess what? Then her little sisters have a place to go. More importantly, Meg is trying to control what's happening in her house, right? She's trying to buffer what happens between her and her little sisters and her mom. But that's not for her to control. What she should control is get the hell out of the house, in my opinion. Set up a little apartment. Get really, really healthy emotionally. Set boundaries with her and her mother. Now, her little sisters now see a way out. So I often tell my clients that I coach privately when they're in this type of a situation. Imagine that you're in a tornado, right? So you're in a tornado and you have generations of generations that are in this tornado with you, right? And when you're in the middle of a tornado, you don't know how big the tornado is because you're stuck in the tornado. So these little girls, her younger sisters, are stuck in this tornado with her and her mom, right? When Meg gets out, imagine her taking a laser and carving a door out in this tornado, and she kicks the door out, the tornado door out, and now suddenly there's a path out. Now Meg's got to jump through. Right now her little sisters are still stuck in their tornado. But guess what? If Meg doesn't get out, her little sisters probably never will. So Meg's got to get out. Meg's got to create her own sacred space. I don't care if you're sharing a bedroom with a healthy family. I don't care where it is, but you got to get out. Now what ends up happening is now she has carved the path for her little sisters. And now the little sisters can come and visit her. And now her little sisters, now they're experiencing their environment differently. Now the little sisters are saying, this is how we get out. We don't take care of mom. We expect mom to take care of herself. We take care of ourselves. So I hope you guys understand that. I really, really hope you guys understand that. That it's out when we're dealing with siblings and we're dealing with like situations like this where we're afraid to leave someone behind. If you don't move forward, so let's say her sisters are here and she's here. If she doesn't move forward, guess what? She stays here, right? So if she moves forward, right, now her little sisters, her little sisters have a level to look up to. Now as she keeps moving forward, guess what's happened? These little sisters are going to eventually resonate with Meg's vibration. But if Meg stays here, then she can't help them. It's sort of like you're standing on a shore and people are drowning, right? And well, actually, let's put it this way. Let's say you have 3 people, they just jumped out of a boat, and one's a really good swimmer. And Meg can see, right, that there are 2 life preservers on shore. So Meg can stay there and try to save both of them, but they'll probably all 3 of them drown. Or she could try to quickly swim to shore 10 or 15 feet away and throw 2 life rings out and then pull the sisters to shore. So we never help anybody by not moving forward. Deanna asked, what about, mom who's elderly? I have another client that's going through that. It's all about what's happening up here in your mind, Deanna, and what's happening in your heart space. If you are still seeking a narcissistic elderly mom's validation, it's not going to work. You have to go in. You have to have a tremendous mind shift. You have to associate consciously more pain with seeking her validation than you do pleasure with seeking her validation. You've got to go in saying to yourself over and over and over and over and over and over and over, stop seeking her validation. I don't need her validation. I am enough. I am enough. I am enough. Mom's 85. She's elderly. It's going to sound terrible, but she's not going to live forever. And you're going to be alone and not taking care of her anymore. And it's much healthier to make these breaks now consciously while she's alive than to try to do them when she's gone. Because then guilt moves in. You are not responsible for your narcissistic mother. And if reincarnation is real, then she'll have a chance to come back and she will have an opportunity to heal like you are, right? So it's all about what's happening up here, Deanna. You got to stop trying to take care of other people's feelings. So if mom gives you a hard time, accept how you feel what you feel, and set a boundary. Mom, you're ornery, what you just said was offensive, it hurt my feelings, so I'm going to go now. You do that enough, mom's going to learn how to speak to you nicely, and if she doesn't, it may be time to have someone else take care of mom. Because, I mean, I could probably take care of my mom if she was nasty and ornery, but I've been doing this for almost 20 years, so there's not much that she could say that will penetrate. My parents were just here last weekend. My father said a bunch of stupid shit to me. And it was amazing because I was able to observe it, and it didn't bother me at all. It was just awesome. I was like, narcissist. That's what narcissists say. Narcissist. That's a narcissistic comment. It was like, I'm rubber, you're glue, whatever you say to me bounces off of me and sticks on you. When you deflect it, when you are no longer seeking your father or your mother's validation, you can deflect what they say, which is awesome. So I also want, another YouTuber wrote, she wrote, I am taking care of my dad who has Alzheimer's, and I'm very stressed out. When I tell my husband how I feel, he makes fun of me. He says things like, what do you mean you're stressed out? What do you mean you feel like you're drowning? Okay, so now, dear ones, codependent, similar situation, taking care of a parent, but let's break it down. So many problems. So this YouTuber, in my opinion, if I was coaching her, I would ask her a couple of questions. I would ask her if she believes that she needs her husband's validation. I would ask her if she feels unconsciously that she is seeking permission to feel stressed out through him. I know that when I was unhappily married, I was looking for other people to validate the fact that I had a right to be unhappy. I didn't think I had a right to be unhappy. And I was looking for my mother and my father to say, yes, you have a right to be unhappy. So that is a huge codependent red freaking flag. So this client, this member, right, would have to really become self-observant and ask herself these questions. And those of you who did not get my free codependency worksheets, you can join www.lisaaromano.com to get them. And also after this live stream uploads, I will leave a link for you to click on, and you will be able to download a bunch of fabulous big questions that you can use and that I use to keep me self-aware and self-observing what's happening subconsciously in my mind. So, in my opinion, this YouTuber is seeking his support. She seeks his support and she doesn't receive it. She attaches to an outcome that she thinks she needs his support. And she thinks she needs him to validate her. So these are all unconscious, right? All unconscious. So the problems that are going on in her mind is that she's seeking his validation, she's attaching to an outcome, she's putting herself into position number 2. Position number 2 is the child's position. So I already know, I don't even know this woman, and I know that she has an attachment trauma. I know that she doesn't feel valid. I know that her mother and her father did a very poor job, maybe unintentionally, but they did not make this kid feel seen. So now, because she is saying, I tell my husband that I'm tired of taking care of my dad, and he makes fun of me, and that makes me feel bad. Because you're seeking his validation, dear one. And you don't have to do that anymore. So to heal from something like this person would have to be very, very self-observing and self-aware, and ask herself questions like, do I think I am enough? Yes or no? Do I seek his approval? Do I see him as more worthy or more powerful than myself? Do I feel like a child with my husband? Do I feel like I need his permission to say I'm tired? And if the answer to those questions are yes, then what we have to do in the brain, right, is we have to associate pain with seeking his approval. So what I would like you guys to do is, and I'm going to read through some of the comments after this statement, but in the first half of the video, what I want you to do is get used to just answering a question without justifying your answer. Just experiment that. That is so much fun. I remember I was at a gym once, and I worked at a wellness center, and I had a private coaching client, and there was this nosy body lady in the gym. She was very nice, but she had like, her life was knowing what the hell everybody else was doing. I'm sure most of you know someone like that. And she was always asking people questions, but she never revealed any information about herself, which was so interesting, and I was intrigued. So one day, I'm working out in the gym, and she says, "So, Lisa, Rose on vacation?" And I said, "Yep." And I just kept doing my cardio. And the lady was standing there looking at me like, and where is she? Where did she go on vacation? Who did she go on vacation with? And I was just, my head was forward, and I refused to look at her. And I have to tell you, my soul chuckled. The little girl inside of me chuckled. I had such a good time inside myself, seeing how uncomfortable this woman was with the fact that I was not giving her any information she just simply didn't deserve. She didn't deserve it. She doesn't have to know where my client went on vacation. It's none of her damn business. And I had a right not to tell her. But that really was a big moment for me, because that's when I realized the power of holding on to yourself. Like just one of the facets of being able to hold on to yourself, which is just fabulous. So, the second part of this live stream event is, what I want you to do is, A, like I said earlier, I want you to stop justifying yourself. And B, what I want you to do is, when you express a feeling, well, a couple of things I like to experiment with. When you express a feeling, I want you to consciously not expect the other person to validate it. So, I'm hungry. Just making a statement. It would be nice if you had an empathetic husband or partner who said, yeah, I'm hungry too. You want to get something to eat? But many of us don't, right? So this woman doesn't have an empathetic partner. He sounds like he's manipulative and controlling, and he wants to make feel bad about herself. So she doesn't get to, strong as a female and really be able to tell him what she really thinks. Because what's going on in this dynamic with her husband has nothing to do with daddy having Alzheimer's. Has nothing to do with her saying, I'm exhausted, and him downplaying that and toning her down. Has nothing to do with that. What's really going on, in my opinion, is that the husband doesn't want his wife to get too comfortable with talking about her feelings. Because she might start talking about the way she feels about him. So it's very, very important that we begin seeing what's really going on. I hope you guys get that. The live stream is going to end immediately at 4 o'clock, and I already set it to that, so I really want to speed this up. I don't want it to just end. So those of you who still have narcissistic sisters, I know some of you on the line have narcissistic sisters, narcissistic brothers. You have narcissistic bosses, narcissistic spouses, narcissistic coworkers. What you're going to do is experiment with not justifying yourself, A, and you're going to experiment with saying something, making a statement, and then not expecting other people to justify it or validate it. You're just making a statement. I feel like I'm drowning. My father's, the work that I had to do with my father today was ridiculous, and I'm exhausted. And you, dear one, shutty in your own head. So if I was her, and if I was coaching her, let's say I could be her ghost, right? And she was in the kitchen with her husband, I would whisper in her ear, tell him you're tired. Just make a statement, I'm tired. And she would say, I'm tired. And then I would say to her, now hold on to yourself. Don't expect him to validate it. It's okay, look at him. He's uncomfortable. He thinks you're going to be uncomfortable because he's not validating you. Smile. It's okay that he's not validating you. You don't need his validation anymore. If I could do that, that's what I would do. And I do believe, some of you have said to me that my meditations actually make you feel like I'm in your head. Okay? You know, one client said, Brad said that he should have charged me rent because I was in his head. He listened to my meditations so often. So I do believe that we can heal codependency, and I do believe that codependency is a product of subconscious programming. My shtick and my trademark is it's not you, it's your programming. And if we were programmed one way, then we can reprogram, you know. And I also want to say this ain't about my ego. This is all about you. I love the idea that you can heal from codependency and set a soul free, because on a global level, what I think is really, really happening is that we're in a battle for our souls. Like, there's dark energy on this planet. There absolutely is. And those of us who've been wounded on a heart level, we experience those shadow energies and that dark energy. And we can overcome it. We can find the light within ourselves. You know, and we can really, really honor ourselves and honor the light that's within ourselves. And when you honor the light within yourselves, you cannot help but honor the light in other people. People really don't piss me off anymore. We went shopping earlier today. The mall was crowded. Actually, it was an outlet. It was crowded. People everywhere. My little one was so pissed off, you know. But I was like, whatever. You know, I love everybody because I know that the same light that is in me is in every single person. I don't care what color you are. I don't care what size you are. I don't care if you're a drug addict or if you're an alcoholic. It doesn't matter. The light is within you. I don't care. I don't even care if you're a pedophile. I don't care. The light is still within you. Most pedophiles are pedophiles because they were sexually abused. Just saying. I'm not saying they shouldn't be punished, and I'm not saying there shouldn't be consequences to that behavior. But my perception these days is when people victimize other people, it's because they're repeating a pattern, because they've been victimized in lots of cases, if not all cases, or in most cases. So I really do believe that we can heal subconscious programming, and I believe that when you heal, there's a butterfly effect, and the entire planet benefits. And so I know that I'm not going to be here forever, and if I can pass on light, and then people like you are passing on that light, then I know that, let's say, God forbid, I died tomorrow, the planet was a better place for my children and my future grandchildren, you know, and my family and your family. So it's really about healing ourselves and having love and compassion for ourselves, really so that we can have love and compassion for one another. And this is the way we heal the planet. We heal the planet, we heal humanity, one mind, one program, one thought, one belief, one unconscious feeling at a time. And look, there are over 100 people on this live stream. You know, I've had a bunch of people come through my coaching program. I have almost 32,000 YouTube subscribers. It's not a lot. Some people have 200,000, 2 million. It's okay, but I'm working my way up there. I'm never going to give up. So please like and share this video. And if you have not yet subscribed to the channel, please do so. And if you are serious, love what you hear here, and you want to get a step-by-step approach to healing, I offer the 12-week breakthrough coaching program, and it is changing people's lives. So you still have an opportunity to get in on that until September 15th, Thursday, September 15th, 2016. That is when the doors to that class, my September class, closes. And I have enjoyed being with you today. Betsy says, thank you, Lisa. Butterfly Fleck is beautiful. Thank you for ferociously flapping your wings and telling us all about it here on YouTube. Namaste. Deanne, I can't answer that question right now. Just so you know, someone said, I think you should think about giving the 12-week coaching program to a couple people through a contest. We have actually had very generous clients actually donate the coaching program to another bunch of people through a scholarship, and those scholarships have been handed out, so thank you. Thank you, Unique, thank you. Thank you, Tracy. Thank you, Alejandra. Thank you so much. I love you all, and next week at 3 o'clock will be the next live stream video. Love you all. Namaste. Now I have to figure out how to shut this off, so bear with me, dear ones.